Hi there, it's Sven in San Francisco with my friend
Cody.
And we're here to host a dinner. Both of us have readers who are interested in investing globally, looking at unusual and exciting undervalued opportunities. So we've got 22 people coming tonight for dinner, and it'll be a mix of your followers and my followers, and there's a bit of an overlap.
Yep.
And we are using that as an opportunity to speak about Greenland, because Cody is deeply passionate and very knowledgeable about geopolitics and investing in exotic countries. I've done this report about Greenland, which I think has sort of gone viral already. It's really stirred up some
Definitely
reactions.
gone viral, yeah. It's been around the world in many newspapers and getting forwarded by most investors interested in unique situations.
And I wanted to get a second opinion, because obviously I've put out a very, I don't want to say controversial, that's such an overused word, but a somewhat unusual and probably slightly almost innovative investment thesis. And as I say in my report about Greenland, I'm not absolutely insisting on this is how it will happen. I'm saying this is a bit of a thought experiment to discuss what could happen. And I wanted to get a second opinion here from Cody, who is American and has his finger on the pulse in the US as well. Trump has just been inaugurated, was it 3 days ago?
Yep. 3 days now.
So we shot this video one day before you get it. You'll get it tomorrow, Friday. It's Thursday now. And I think before we delve into the subject matter, shall we just give everyone a quick view of where we are here? Because it's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, there's actually, hopefully we don't get bombarded with people. There's a ferry offloading behind us, and you got the Bay Bridge right here. We're in San Francisco, if you did not know where this all is. And you've got San Francisco, the skyline over here. And Swen and I have been here for a little less than 24 hours, and I've spent a lot of time in San Francisco throughout my life. I gotta say, and I hate to say this because I'm pretty critical of California, I gotta say it's pretty clean here. And I'm really shocked. The downtown area seems to be bustling. There seems to be life in this city. And if I was to pick a city in the world that is maybe primed for a comeback, or maybe is at the bottom in terms of having a bad reputation, but possibly having a big boom in the coming years, San Francisco might be on that list. In fact, it might be at the top of the list. So we're gonna be here for the next couple of days, exploring everything. But if you have not been to San Francisco in a while, quite an eye-opener for me.
Shocking is the word, and as I texted you earlier, it's cleaner than New York.
Yeah.
Which doesn't take much, but...
Yeah, but San Francisco was really bad the past several years, and I was here several times during the pandemic and afterwards, and it was pretty rough. It was dangerous here. A lot of issues of crime, but I'm telling you, this is like a new city right now. I'm shocked. Yeah. I'm really pleasantly surprised.
We'll do another video about this on Saturday, which
Okay.
we'll send everyone's way as well. And I'd like to get down to Greenland now.
Yep.
So, I mean, it is such an emotional, controversial, widely discussed subject now. We don't need to cover the basics here, but maybe give us the American view. Like, how does this look like, from over here? And if we stopped anyone in the street here in San Francisco, would they know? Would they care? What do they?
It's a great question, because I think you got a variety of things going on. First of all, the average American, as most people outside of the US are aware of, is pretty ignorant to geopolitics and anything going on outside of the US. And that's because we have the luxury of having two oceans on our borders. And really, most people don't pay attention to anything going on outside of the US. So when they see something like, oh, Trump wants Greenland, I think most people are categorizing this as one of those crazy things that Trump is bringing up. So I think most people write this off as a nothing burger. This is some crazy story that's going to disappear in a couple months from now. That said, I would say a smaller portion of Americans understand what is going on here, and that is that Trump is interested in Greenland for the literal position on the map, meaning it's strategically positioned near the Arctic, where the US, Canada, and really Europe is also vulnerable to control by adversaries, and also the incredible amounts of natural resources that exist in Greenland. It's important to realize, though, that Greenland being absorbed or controlled or under some sort of influence from the US, this may seem new in the news, but this has been a topic for nearly a century, meaning that the US has had interest in Greenland and having control or some sort of relationship for a very long time. So it's hard to say what the exact pulse is here in the US, but I would say it's probably similar to a European perspective in that most Americans aren't really following it that closely and don't know the specific situation of why the U.S. is actually interested in it. One thing I will mention that most people know, the U.S. does have a military base there, and it is at the very northern end of Greenland. It's the northernmost military base of the United States military, so it is strategically located for that base, and that's why another reason why the U.S. is interested in Greenland.
And many people don't know this, but not only do the Americans have a military base there, but would you have known that during the Second World War, when the Nazis occupied Denmark, the Americans then protected Greenland? So, pick your allies.
Exactly, and that's what I was alluding to a little bit ago in terms of us having an interest there for nearly a century. And I guess that's the other part of the story too that kind of goes, isn't really focused on, in the sense that the U.S. is not going to invade Greenland for so many reasons. The U.S. is on very good terms with Denmark and with nearly every single EU nation in relative terms. We're not going to, when I say we, the U.S. is not going to invade there. It's highly likely that actually Denmark and Greenland would benefit tremendously with the U.S. taking over some sort of leadership role with Greenland, certainly from a financial perspective, but also from a broader-based protection perspective and the ability to really develop Greenland in ways that are beneficial to Denmark, to Greenland, to the U.S., and many other countries. But it gets lost in the whole, oh my gosh, the U.S. is expanding and Trump wants to take over other countries and we're invading someone. Not going to happen, but that's what the news likes to grasp onto.
Yeah, and that's the news, and they sort of put these words into his mouth. It wasn't even him really saying that. And I mean, being a big fan of the States, something I give the Americans huge credit for is that they're all about doing rather than talking, and they understand that someone like Trump, much as he doesn't always choose his words wisely, he gets stuff done, and that's why he was elected in an absolute landslide. And it was a landslide that came about even though the system, for lack of a better word, threw everything in the kitchen sink at him. So his remarkable win is even more remarkable when you consider that. And that's because he gets stuff done, and among it is negotiating. And I mean, I've been saying that this whole wording regarding buying Greenland is, of course, completely unrealistic in today's world. Countries are not being bought and sold anymore. That happened in the past, but not anymore nowadays. But what you do is you negotiate an agreement. And Greenland is, for all intents and purposes, not able to feed itself, literally. They rely on welfare from Denmark. And Denmark has a very dark history in some parts with Greenland, so it's not like they were the benevolent colonial ruler at all times. And they have also completely failed at building a sustainable economy in Greenland. And it's now been 46 years since Home Rule was established in Greenland, and the country still needs half of its government budget as a subsidy from Denmark. So it's a complete, and I mean, it's a 100% failure in terms of making this an independent entity. So lots of criticism should go towards Denmark as well, in my view.
Yeah, and one other thing I'll mention, just because I know there's a lot of European viewers here, is that whatever you're hearing on the news about Trump or this or that, the on-the-ground feeling here in the U.S., as I said before, most people aren't talking about it, but we are in arguably one of the most liberal places in the United States, if not the world, which is here in San Francisco. And I'm seeing a lot of MAGA hats around here. I've seen a lot of them, and I don't know if that's a sign of the changing of San Francisco, or if it's a sign of just saying, hey, whatever you are seeing in the mainstream news and media, there is another part that's probably not covered, you're not seeing a lot of. And I can tell you right now on the ground here, that's what I'm seeing. I saw it with my own eyes this morning all over the place.
Yep, and we'll get back to that again in our video about San Francisco. I've already, in the last 24 hours that I've been here, I've seen some remarkable stuff where last time I was here was 5 years ago. It's changed tremendously and in a good way. So what shall we do a bit of an outlook for the Greenland situation, or is it all completely unpredictable? What's your take?
Yeah, my outlook on Greenland, here's my outlook. Me personally, as an investor, I think it benefits everybody, meaning it benefits Greenland, it benefits Denmark, it benefits the US, and it benefits the Western world. When I say the Western world, those are countries ruled by law and order and want a free, open society. It benefits the US and all those Western nations, because the reality is a lot of the resources that Greenland has, like those rare earth metals, are monopolized by China and Russia, who have taken over a lot of Africa and have a lot of those assets. So it's, me personally, I believe it's in the best interest to have a system where Greenland can be exploited for the betterment of people in the Western world. Now, as an investor, I think this is more of a binary play, meaning if you invest in a company that is targeting Greenland specifically, it's either going to do really well or it's going to do really bad. It's binary, black or white. So I would not be putting a huge bet on this, but I think there's a reasonable enough chance that the US finagles a deal here, that an investment in a company that's doing business there might turn out pretty well. So that's my personal thought, is that I think something's going to be done here. I think Trump's going to be able to pull a rabbit out of a hat here.
And I'll just add to that and sort of bring it back home also to the entire investment thesis and the stuff that I've published. So I would say that generally speaking, investing in Greenland is only moderately interesting, because there's so few ways how to get exposure. It's a very difficult jurisdiction to operate in. I mean, if you're running resource projects, there's no infrastructure, no staff available, never mind the climate and these things. So it's not like a slam dunk win to do something up there. The special situation that I've introduced on my website is very much down to a legal situation that exists, but it's also partially been repriced already since I first wrote about it. The stock price went up double and then triple. It's now come back, but it's not anymore the no-brainer that it was when I first dug this out and published it. And I would say it's now time to ask, what are the next similar situations going to be? And something I'm interested in as an investor and writing on undervaluedshares.com is the whole subject of energy independence, resource autarky. And I think that will become much more of a trend. And there'll be, I think, other countries will copy what Trump is now doing with regards to making the United States even more independent from other countries, and there'll be interesting commodities-related opportunities coming out of this, and that's something to look at, and I will definitely spend some time researching that.
Yeah, and I just want to add also that, yes, it's energy independence, but it's also energy being not dependent, and that is what a lot of the EU and even the US is right now, which is we are dependent on some of our adversaries for raw minerals, for energy, and for a lot of the technology that our societies rely on. And we've gotten ourselves in this situation that if we don't change course relatively soon, we are going to be in an extremely vulnerable position if we aren't already. And this trend of going back the other way, which is not being totally dependent on other nations, is certainly happening with Trump. And whatever you think about him, the data is clear in terms of the US depending on a lot of these rare earth metals that are monopolized by China, but also with Europe depending on energy from countries that are clearly adversaries right now. So I think it's a trend that is just reverse course and is certainly going to be going the other way, which is countries looking for minerals, raw resources from friendly nations and domestically.
That's a great closing statement, and I'll just add another pitch for our dinners, because we're going to do this a couple more times this year, I hope. And keep an eye out for invitations from us. These evenings are always, first of all, great fun, very interesting. You meet some great people. Anyone who comes to either one of our blogs has come through a filter and is both like-minded as well as completely different.
Yep.
And we do these dinners on the basis of there's no sponsor, no marketing, just everyone pays their share of the dinner. We just split the bill in equal measure, and come and see us. It's fun.